But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And, well, yesterday we were looking a bit at the, fucking Ferengi death rituals that reactionaries have been engaging in while they pretend to mourn a guy whose job they're very clearly just fighting over. It is just so patently clear that this is just a pot of money that has become available, and they're fighting to see who gets some of it. And, well, that is totally on brand. Now, River Rune sent some video that looked quite promising. I also was just looking at Ezra Klein. I noticed I noticed because Jill, the cheesemonger, who sometimes has shown up in chat from the Pacific Northwest, pointed out to me that the title that I'd put on last night's stream for the VOD referred to Ethan Klein as Ezra Klein, which is, that's the trouble. There are too many dickheads called E. Klein, but anyway, I corrected that. But so River Rune gave us one called Charlie Kirk's Legacy Deserves No Revisions. And that's from Matt Bernstein, and looks potentially quite promising. But I think we might start out with some Pim Tool, one of the various people who probably will end up benefiting economically from this whole reshuffle of the far-right media sphere.
Let me play this clip from Ben for you.
Comedian dunks on leftist heckler after she defends illegal immigrants. Oh, I bet, every single one of those words requires a footnote. I mean, oh, I see. Yet another picture of Charlie Kirk that somehow manages to look worse than the man already looked to begin with. It's like it's impossible to paint him in a way that isn't vaguely scary.
You guys, this is actually pretty good, and he's a funny guy. Let's load it up. Make sure we get the audio going.
Yeah, somebody is pointing out that people who are U.S. citizens are being grabbed by ICE, and yes, that is true, and Trump has been threatening to deport citizens and all sorts of shit, so what she's saying is not wrong. Hello, Adam, how you doing? Yeah, he thinks. Well, maybe you should check it out. I mean, yes, it's true that there hasn't actually been an actual deportation of a U.S. citizen. They've certainly been grabbed by ICE, and Trump keeps threatening to do it. As the case with Zoran Mamdani, who keeps on saying he wants to, strip of his citizenship and deport.
I think...
Hey, Anthony Manzano, how you doing?
One citizen has been deported. Besides Ellen DeGeneres.
What? I guess the idea is in the far-right bullshitosphere, you can just throw a name in there like that, ooh, Ellen DeGeneres, and everybody laughs? What does she have to do with anything?
Keep it as self-reported. No, but I'm curious, who's been reported? Right. So everybody says that Mickey's just a Maryland man.
Well, he was. Although he isn't a citizen, that's true. But he's lived there for a long time, and they've been coming up with all sorts of just admittedly bullshit reasons. Wait, what, Anthony? About Ellen DeGeneres or what? Oh, I'm not bad at him. You?
He's just a Maryland man. What was his name? Rodrigo Gonzalez?
Oh, wow. So I see. The comedian thing, what he does is he says Spanish names in a, like, fucking Speedy Gonzalez voice. Because, you see, if you have a Spanish name, you have to understand, that means you couldn't possibly be from here. Because it's not like people have been speaking Spanish on this continent for centuries before anyone ever heard a word of English.
He's guilty. If your name's not Jeff, you're going.
Okay. Like, is that okay? Now I'm not even entirely certain. That's okay. I mean, because that could. I've never heard of this fucking guy, which is confusing. Because that almost sounds like he's being critical. He's saying, like, if you don't have like, he was being quite racist a second ago. But now he seems to be saying. Now, is he saying that as a criticism, or is he saying that as, like, in support of it? I'm not sure, but I haven't heard any actual comedy from this guy yet. He's like, supposedly a comedian. Apparently, he was in Cincinnati, right near me, in August. And Winnipeg is subjected to him in September.
But he wasn't a citizen. He was a green card holder.
Not even a green card holder.
Got arrested like
Yeah.
4 times.
That's insane.
I think his wife had a protection order against him.
That's not his name. Like, they're talking about the wrong guy. I mean, he isn't... He's not Rodrigo Gonzalez, weón. They're talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Like, yeah, this is all bullshit. But, like, you can't even say his name correctly? Well, yeah, I mean, that's the entire bullshit about... Yeah, well, I mean, it was... Before that, it belonged to the Tohono O'odham people and all sorts of other people. I mean, the land was stolen by Spain, too. I mean, it's all settler colonialism. But, yeah, I mean, the idea that if you have a Spanish name, that means that you couldn't possibly be from here. I mean... Roughly a third of this country's population is native Spanish speakers. And it's been that is growing, but it's always been a high proportion ever since, like, the U.S. invaded the places that are now the Western U.S. Because those were full of Spanish-speaking people.
Wow.
Okay, what did she actually... Like, the fucking subtitles say lefty gibberish, so clearly...
I think his wife had a protection order against him.
Wow.
I mean... Okay, so the guy is saying that the 53 criminal convictions against Trump in New York somehow don't exist. And she was saying that they do. Yeah, well, I don't think that any of these people are worried about losing their place at the I think it is more... The idea is to make a sector of the working class feel like they're going... because the working class is constantly getting fucking robbed. I mean, that's just how capitalism works. And part of how capitalism survives, despite the fact that it's constantly screwing over most people in one way or another, is by getting at least some of those people to blame other workers and become scabs. And so all of this propaganda around the supposed legitimate concerns about immigration, and if you hear the word legitimate concerns in the media, you can be 90% certain that what you're going to hear is some just fucked up Nazi bullshit. But the idea is to just get people to scab.
Lefty
See,
gypsy.
this is why one day when you're like 45 and single after 3 abortions.
Like, okay. So, I'm still waiting for him to do comedy. Well, I mean, but he's got an audience full of just scumbags, so of course the idea that any of that is funny.
You look back on this night, while living in your bachelor apartment that you can barely afford on
Government welfare checks, right? I mean, like when is this guy from? Is he from 1992? Because that's not a thing. We don't have a fucking social safety net to speak of anymore. The stuff that keeps on getting just progressively dismantled now is just the remnants of what was never a particularly good social safety net to begin with. Like, but these motherfuckers are still talking like it's 1992 and we're doing the welfare queen thing. Oh wow, and some guy is doing a really loud fake laugh there. Wow, there's some comedy. Hello, Relentless Grindex. Your name sounds like some sort of a pad that you'd use to scour toilets, and I'm wondering, how are you defining anarchy there? Well, Anthony, quite right, except, I mean, these days, the highest percentage would be outside of the US, because basically nobody gets them anymore, because they got rid of that under Bill Clinton. So basically, so nobody's getting that shit, and that's why everybody's so fucked. That's why everybody's, like, scrambling to find ways to monetize their hobbies and all this fucking shit. Because there's no social safety net in this country anymore. You just, I mean, if you don't have money, you're just kind of fucked. But yeah, I mean, historically, in terms of, like, state benefits, and if we talk seriously about, like, state subsidies, then the people who get the overwhelming majority of it are rich people. I mean, you look at, you know, companies like Lockheed Martin and GE and big tech. I mean, big tech wouldn't exist without government subsidies. I actually haven't really looked at the birth rates, and I personally don't particularly care. I mean, I think part of it is there is this fear of that because there's this whole Nazi great replacement bullshit. But I don't... I have not actually looked at it, and I personally don't give a shit. I mean, people reproduce. Sometimes some people produce more, other people produce less. Sometimes it goes the other way. It's just kind of how things work. And I think we get into a really, really fucked up area when you start to hear people like, I mean, Ursula von der Leyen, for example, like the UN foreign policy person who thinks she can just decide unilaterally what the UN has to say about genocide without consulting anybody. Well, one of her things back when she was families and women's minister in Germany was she wanted to have a litter bonus. Because the wrong people, she said, were reproducing, and she wanted to get, like, well-to-do, university-educated white people to reproduce more. But, yeah. So, Grindex, which, again, great name, it just sounds like toilet cleaner. What do you think anarchy actually is? Because I have a feeling that you are not necessarily using it in the way that anarchist theory actually uses it.
And you're gonna go, fuck, I was wrong.
I mean, all he does... I mean, I thought Slime did a thing on this. And he pointed out, like, what these so-called right-wing comedians do is they just say their beliefs. So they'll say, like, racist or misogynistic bullshit. And they do it with the pauses that comedians use, but without doing jokes. So they'll just do, folks, I'm a big misogynist over here. And then the right-wing assholes in the audience will go, that was fucking hilarious, because none of them have ever heard a joke either.
Okay, that dude's very funny, and that was good.
He has to explain to his viewers that dude is funny. That says everything right there. He has to... His audience would not realize that this was supposed to be comedy if somebody didn't tell them. Because there's no... Good.
That was good.
I don't blame a comedian for not knowing anything about Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
God. That feeling when fucking Pim Tool is the only person to get the guy's name right.
But the point, the reason I bring this up is how the audience, this woman was willing to yell at a comedian in a comedy show. First of all,
yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I don't think she was yelling at a comedian because I don't think that guy was a comedian. But like, crowd work is sort of a thing a comedian ought to be good at, because heckling comedians is sort of a thing.
oh, why heckle?
Yeah.
But
Why not? Why let somebody just say some bullshit? Why not reply? I mean, why not heckle, actually? Hey, Riveroon. Hey, Adria. I didn't see it come in.
was so sure of herself. That
And because she was fucking right, except for, like, nobody got the guy's name right. It is absolutely depressing that the only person who had the name more or less right was fucking Tim Pool.
said he was a citizen who got deported, and they were petty offenses, petty charges.
I mean, they were not even that. They were just bullshit charges. Because, I mean, let's just remember, I think I'm gonna move on from this. I was curious to see if there was any evidence of an actual comedian going on, and there wasn't. But the first thing was, it was an administrative error. And the U.S. government admitted it was an administrative error, and it got him sent to the U.S. puppet regime in El Salvador's concentration camp for several months. And then he finally got sent back after the U.S. government pretended for quite a while that there was nothing that they could possibly do, because to admit that they could just give the order any time would be to admit that fucking, now I'm blanking on the motherfucker's name, Bukele. That Bukele is a fucking is just a puppet of the U.S., which he's been all along, which is why he gets bankrolled and is basically allowed to do what he does. But then they brought him back, and then they came up with some bullshit charges that nobody believed, and used those in order to, like, pressure him to plead guilty, or he'd be sent back to the fucking concentration camp. Also irgendwann vielleicht. Ich habe was anderes im Petto. Now, Riveroon had a video from Matt Bernstein that looked kind of promising here. I think we'll look at that.
Can't say anything bad about Charlie, because he just died, and that would hurt Mama's feelings. Like, no, we don't know these people.
Yeah, that's part of the bullshit. That, I mean, they do this with anti-trans moral panic bullshit as well. But they do it in general. Like, the media will act like something is a thing because people in the media are into it. Like, Hamilton was like this. The media was diagnosing Hamilton fever. Everybody loves Hamilton at a time when almost nobody had even seen Hamilton. Like, when only a couple of thousand people in the entire country had seen it, they were talking about it like everybody in the country had seen it and absolutely loved it or something. Like, just talking about some shit that only they had even heard of at that point. And they're doing that with Charlie Kirk, who we're supposed to think that he was just a minorly controversial figure or something like that, as opposed to something that most people had either never heard of or didn't like.
These are public figures who are impactful and consequential, and we don't have to treat them with kid gloves, especially journalists and people who are in this role of writing the first draft of history. You need to put all of that emotional stuff aside.
I hope she's not saying that Charlie Kirk was a journalist, because he definitely wasn't that, but I don't think she's saying that.
And do your job.
Oh, no. Oh, she's saying especially journalists shouldn't be doing this. Yes, definitely. Okay, I misunderstood her. Okay, I absolutely love the eyeshadow. That's a fucking incredible eyeshadow.
Hello.
And I want to know what the lighting settings were to make it, like, sparkle like this, because I always have that problem. It's part of why I don't really do eye makeup to go on stream, other than it's a pain in the ass to remember to take it off afterwards, and I always end up rubbing my eyes and getting mascara in them at some point in the process. But part of it is also that my lighting here does not actually make anything like that really pop. Like, I have to up the contrast massively just to get lipstick to work.
And welcome back.
And this is really, really dark lipstick. And to make it look like it actually looks in real life, I have to have the contrast at like 80%.
Too, a bit fruity. The show where I'm tired.
I have clearly a very high quality studio set up here.
What are you guys doing?
I'm also tired. I'm so tired. It's been such a weird week.
Oh, is that Tara Lorenz just now? Oh, that'll be interesting.
This is not going to be a podcast episode where I tell you if it is or isn't morally correct to make jokes about Charlie Kirk's death.
It is. It absolutely is. As long as you manage to kick very, very hard downwards under the ground, so you get him on the nuts on the way out.
Because, to be honest, I don't really care. If you want to read funny jokes about Charlie Kirk, go on Twitter. And if you want to read essays about why you're a bad person for laughing at those jokes, go to NewYorkTimes.com.
Yeah.
I feel like while conservatives and liberals and the right and the left are all arguing over how we should feel about Charlie Kirk's death, his legacy is being rewritten in real time.
I will say, I really haven't heard leftists tell anyone how to feel about it. I mean, what I've seen leftists mostly saying is, like, stop telling us we have to pretend to be sad. Stop telling us that this guy was somebody that we should have respect for. I haven't heard anyone, like, the prescriptivism has been very much from fascists and liberals who have been really, really showing their asses and showing that they actually share an ass a lot of the time.
A lot of people. Some of whom are using that rewritten legacy to justify an extremely unpopular and dangerous authoritarian crackdown. The far right is celebrating this, of course, and the left is terrified, and the majority of people sitting closer to the middle, I'm thinking...
And then you have, like, liberal slopcasters who are just stoking it. I mean, they won't do journalism. Like, they won't... Oh, link spam, hello and goodbye, link spam. Gotta take care of that. Add to block list. Yay. Who will... Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, I've got, like, one softbox and just a floor lamp that I think is about 20 years old at this point. Good microphone, though. Like, my audio setup isn't bad. But... Okay, what the fuck was I just talking about? Well, they will take... Rather than actually doing journalism, which would mean listening to like the threatening shit that Trump says and then going and talking to people on the ground and finding out whether it's going on. They will just amplify his words. And let me just be clear, I do think we need to pay attention to his words, because those threats can become reality, and we absolutely need to take them seriously. But if you're going to be informing members of the public, if you're going to put yourself in a position where people in the general public are relying on you to give them information, then you need to do some due diligence and like talk to people, say in Portland right now, and see if this crackdown that we're supposed to be here, that is supposed to be going on according to Trump, is actually a thing, or whether it is, as a comrade of mine over there said, a nothing burger. Apparently, all that people have seen is some feds sort of walking around looking bored on the grounds of an ICE facility. Then that's it. Which, it could become something, it could become more than that, certainly. Certainly, Fash have an obsession with PDX, because they, show up there, they try to start shit, they tend to get their asses kicked. The cops love the Nazis who come in from out of town to terrorize the locals, and do all sort, and have tried to have let them set up sniper nests to threaten the lives of protesters and stuff like that, and somehow that never really gets mentioned all that much. But right now, apparently, fuck all's really going on there, and it would be important. I mean, because we have to focus, we have to actually look at what's being done in addition to what's being said. In fact, I would argue that we have to spend more time on what's actually being done.
Parents, and honestly just most people who aren't as online as I am, are watching this play out, watching politicians seize on this moment very fucking quickly, and not knowing what the correct thing to feel or say is without sounding insensitive about Charlie Kirk's death.
I don't give a fuck about sounding insensitive, because the people who are sad about this are people who deserve some insensitivity in their lives.
God forbid they lose their job or visa or driver's license. Yes, that is a real threat made by Representative Clay Higgins. If you talk bad about Charlie Kirk right now, you lose your driver's license. Ezra Klein, a liberal writer...
Well, how is that even supposed to fucking work? Seriously. Okay, if everybody who doesn't like Charlie Kirk is deprived of a driver's license, the U.S. would have to get public transport. And these motherfuckers don't want public transport. So that means just, I guess, everybody doesn't go to work anymore? How's any of that supposed to work?
Published an essay one day after Kirk's death called Charlie Kirk Was Practicing Politics the Right Way.
God, I mean, who compiled this list of photos that are supposed to make him look like a nice guy? There are 10 photos of him with a distorted face, just as distorted by hatred and rage. For every one where he looks like fucking statesmanly or whatever he's supposed to look like in that fucking picture.
Argued that Charlie Kirk's commitment to free speech and debate represented the best of American democratic ideals, no matter how much he disagreed with the guy, and that his death represents a new era in the erosion of American democracy.
God.
I think Ezra Klein is wrong.
I think that's by definition, actually, I have to say.
Was like a professional eroder of democracy. And
yes!
I also think that rewriting his legacy this way is contributing to a movement that is very rapidly threatening our civil liberties in exactly the way that Charlie Kirk wanted. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we want to talk about eroding democracy or whatever, to the extent that there even is democracy to erode. I mean, the reason that the Democrats' messaging about, saving our democracy or whatever falls so flat in the polls is that most people are not convinced that we have any, because nothing that they think ought to happen, that the government actually ought to do, ever fucking gets done. You know? So, but to the extent that, yes, actually, you know, the human rights situation is certainly deteriorating, and that was very much what fucking Charlie Kirk wanted. And you know, if Charlie Kirk hadn't shown up to get that billionaire hand shoved up his ass to become a little fucking sock puppet, it would have been somebody else, because literally anyone could do what he does. Literally anyone. But I mean, yeah, even this whole idea of just retconning who he was as a person is very much undermining it. It is very much just buying into just fascist propaganda and trying to make it this consensual reality and gaslighting everybody who actually knows anything about the motherfucker.
Way. And so I want to talk about that today. Not my most up.
And I know I'm talking about this a lot, but it's actually, I have to say, it is low-key frightening, actually, the degree to which this narrative is being imposed, and that liberals are just sort of buying into it, you know.
Intro. I was originally planning on doing a Jeffree Star political arc episode this week, which I am still planning to do with Kat and Olurinati. I'm really excited to do that, but this just felt more pressing. Like, we can always talk about Jeffree Star, and we will.
Chat. Jeffree Star, I have never heard of him. Tell me, have I been missing something? Is this somebody who should be on my radar?
To parse all of this out with me today are two people who are regulars on this podcast, two people whose work I admire a lot, and two people who have been chronicling this authoritarian crackdown on free speech on the left, on minorities generally, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death. We have Kat Tenbarge from Spitfire News and Taylor Lorenz from Using
I
Mad.
knew she looked familiar, because we were just looking at her recently, because of David Pacman and the other dark money fucker, whose initials work out to the abbreviation for Bitcoin, which is kind of weird. I mean, just a random coincidence, really. Were, like, incensed because she brought up facts about their funding sources. Because there's nothing more just heartening than the idea of an independent media source that is funded by dark money.
I don't even know what day it is right now. Because the past
That's
week
me normally. Like, the only anchors I have in my week are, like, today and Friday, because I stream. And other than that, I really, you know, things more or less run together, because my work does not require me to, you know, how it does not operate on that sort of a cycle.
It's been such a, like, I've been in, like, a fugue state.
Yeah.
It's especially surreal because when I found out about Charlie Kirk, I was also filming a podcast with Matt. So it's like, is time real, or am I just constantly filming a podcast with Matt?
Fun fact. If you really want to, you can renounce fugue. Fug you. And I think that's special.
yeah. Kat and I were like 3 hours into recording our Patreon episode about Eugenia Cooney when Charlie Kirk was
Another
shot.
name that does not ring a bell.
Are you looking at the Charlie Kirk was shot thing?
The what?
Did you see Charlie Kirk was just shot?
Really? And if you'd like to hear that episode, that is over on Patreon right now. Should we get into this one, though?
Yes. Let's go full circle.
Like I said, on September 11th, one day after Charlie Kirk's assassination, Ezra Klein publishes an article in the New York Times called Charlie Kirk Was Practicing Politics the Right Way.
I mean, and it absolutely should actually really worry us that liberals will say something like this. That they think this. Like, in fact, liberals, like, just sort of, or, you know, I'm talking about, like, ordinary people who buy into liberalism right now, not, like, liberal commentators and media figures and stuff like that really ought to be looking at that in some level of horror and wondering if maybe they're listening to the wrong people. Like, maybe these people who are sort of their guides to analyze what's going on are really not on their side. Because, I think most people who are liberals, I'm talking about just sort of generally, just your average people. I'm not talking about people like Ezra Klein, media figures, multipliers, opinion makers, influencers, whatever you want to call them. I think they genuinely are concerned about things, and that on a lot of things they mostly have their hearts in the right place, even though they have this idea that the things that they think ought to be part of how a society works, can somehow be realized within this existing regime, and that is where things fall flat. But I think on the whole, they probably, by and large, have, and I hope that they're looking at this and saying, like, holy shit, I thought that guy was somebody you could trust, and now he's just saying Nazi things. It ought to be a serious, like, wake-up moment for these people.
I clipped together some excerpts from that article that really hone in on the full point of it. I'm going to read that right now, and I'll do it in my best Ezra Klein voice. I feel like he has a very, like, breathy, sort of self-serious tone, which I also
yes, he
sometimes
does.
have, so
And his the whole way, I never actually really seen Ezra Klein until yesterday when we were watching the beginning of that thing where he was talking about how suddenly there's violence in America. Like, we got through a whole genocide with no violence. It was a peaceful genocide, and for 2 years. And, there was a non-violent federal building bombing by a non-violent neo-Nazi, and all sorts of just non-violence that killed a whole lot of people, but now suddenly there's violence because a Nazi died.
Fucking for that. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed, and the following statement is still true.
Note, he will never tell you what Kirk believed in the article.
Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way.
This tells you so much about liberalism, too. Because the idea that the right or wrong way to practice politics could also include standing for the right things is just anathema here. It's just completely absent. It doesn't matter what you stand for. You could stand for just literal Nazism. And if you do it the right way, then it's cool. Then you're practicing politics well. You're good at politics. You're practicing it just the right way. But, you could stand for the right things, but if you don't do it the way guys like Ezra Kirk like it, you're the worst person ever, and you're to blame for all the things fascists do.
He was showing up to campuses and talking with anyone who would talk to him. He was one of the
What is that Johnny Appleseed bullshit?
Most effective practitioners of persuasion.
That is such a weird statement because he didn't persuade anyone.
When the left thought its hold on the hearts and minds of college students was near absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it.
Except that's not what happened either. Apart from just lying by omission about what the guy stood for. It is simply demonstrably false that this guy was, persuading anyone on college campuses. He was not popular on college campuses. The only reason most people showed up to see him on college campuses was to protest him. The idea... this is so just completely... this echo chamber of media liberals... this centrist echo chamber is really impressive because Ezra Klein did not actually talk to any university students to see what they thought of this guy. He didn't look at the polling because the polling says they hated him. He did not win anyone's fucking hearts and minds. All he did was threaten people and incite violence by telling vicious lies.
Slowly, then all at once, he did.
college-age voters shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. See, there's another one. This is just, I mean, what do we call it? Bullshit. It's a bullshit. Because the actual deal is that they shifted sharply towards abstention. And they shifted sharply towards abstention because their choices were a fascist toilet monster and a genocidal Muzak. And they said, well, I mean, obviously we're not voting for the fascist toilet monster, but genocidal Muzak's no good. I'm not going to vote for fucking genocide. And so the people who did voted, were people who were, like, pro-genocide and pro-fascist toilet monster. Their proportion of the, like, university student vote was massively exaggerated by the abstention. This is okay. So, and Ezra Klein works for the New York Times and Vox. He has people who can explain these things to him, who can show him the figures, and saying so he knows better. Hey, Hail Satine.
College-age voters shifted sharply
he's just lying there.
In the 2024 election. I did not know Kirk, and I'm not the right person to eulogize him, but I envied what he built. A taste for disagreement.
Also, he attributes this in part to Kirk. Like, I wonder if anything else was going on campus in 2024. Like, I seem to remember campuses there being like big protests over something. That's right, the genocide. They were, like, the campuses were erupting in massive protests against the genocide. A genocide that Charlie Kirk loved and spoke in favor of. So, but I guess if you mention that, then it kind of screws up the whole narrative that he was an effective persuader.
Virtue in a democracy. Liberalism could use more of his moxie and fearlessness.
Moxie and fearlessness. Yeah, like, guess what? I mean, if you've got fucking billionaire money just falling on you from on high, that'll buy a lot of moxie and fearlessness.
In the inaugural episode of his podcast, Governor Gavin Newsom of California hosted Kirk, admitting that his son was a huge fan.
So Gavin Newsom has a white nationalist son. Neat. Not surprising. Because again, I mean, that's like the exact demographic, like that is really particularly susceptible to this shit, because Gavin Newsom's kid is born in, like, just absolutely and just utter privilege, surrounded by reaction and money.
What a testament to Kirk's project. Kirk and I...
How is that a testament? Like, so Gavin Newsom has a son who is like a white supremacist. That isn't really a testament to anything. Kirk and I were on different sides of most political arguments. Like what? Like, I mean, again, we're still not hearing what Kirk stood for.
We're on different sides of most political arguments. We were on the same side on the continued possibility of American politics.
What the fuck does that even mean?
It is supposed to be an argument, not a war.
Well, I mean, tell that to, like, literally the rest of the world.
It is supposed
to... Or, I mean, around here, tell that to, let's say, black people. It's been kind of a war against them. Tell that to just people of color generally. It's been a war against them kind of from the start.
To be won with words, not ended with bullets. I wanted Kirk to be safe for his sake, but I also wanted him to be safe for mine, and for the sake of our larger shared project.
Okay, you should not be admitting to having shared projects with neo-Nazis.
This article was my 9/11.
Yeah.
It's worse than I thought.
I have to hard agree. I've never read the whole thing because it's paywalled, and fuck that. And also, like, just fuck Ezra Klein. I don't want him to have too much of my brain real estate in the first place. But like, the summaries that I'd seen and the quotes, they were bad enough, but that was so much worse. Because there's so many just outright lies in that paragraph.
And I like Ezra. But what the hell is he talking about? Also, I don't think he actually knows anything about Charlie Kirk, with all due respect.
That's the thing.
I mean, that is the charitable thing. Like, the only way that anyone with even remotely decent values could square this with saying, I like Ezra Klein, is if they say that Ezra Klein just has no idea who Charlie Kirk is. In which case, if he doesn't know shit about the guy, why is he writing in the New York Times about him? Is that what the New York Times is now, where just, like, it's an open mic and people who don't know shit about anything get to have column space so that they can give uninformed opinions? I mean, it's kind of always been that way when it comes to, like, trans people. They'll just let any old asshole make bullshit claims and they never fact check them. But, wow. I mean, but because if you accept the possibility that Ezra Klein is a reasonably well-informed person and did at least some level of due diligence about who Kirk was and what he stood for, then you just have to accept that fucking Ezra Klein's a fascist.
I thought it was one of the worst columns I've ever read in my entire life. Like, every single word with each passing sentence, I'm like, wrong, like, just completely backwards.
I mean, either it's factually wrong or it's, like, literally just evil, too.
Genuinely don't think he knew who this man was.
That is the charitable assumption. I do not assume that he didn't know. Because, again, he's full of shit, Ezra Klein is, but he does seem to, like, be a little bit well-informed about things. I don't feel like he was writing about somebody he'd never heard of. Because the thing is, if you'd never heard of the guy, what would you do? You'd look up his quotes. Like, as a reasonably well-informed person. Like, you would look at him up. You'd want to say, yeah, because you've got this argument you want to make about how he did politics so fucking well. Best politics, boy. And so you go and you look up some videos and you say, oh shit. Wow, that's fucking horrible. Maybe I'm thinking of, like, Charlie McCarthy, the beloved ventriloquist dummy. I don't know, maybe I got him confused with somebody. But I think the only way you write this fucking article, the way he wrote it, without quoting Kirk even once, is if you know exactly what he stood for, and you're cool with whitewashing his legacy and essentially doing fascists a big solid, and you know that your opinions will not be taken seriously, that it will be fatal to your argument to actually quote him. I don't see any other explanation.
No, he's not that online.
In fact, I mean, the way Klein was talking in the subsequent video where he was talking about the reaction, like, if he didn't know anything about Charlie Kirk, then he somehow managed to get through writing that entire fucking piece of shit column without learning anything about Charlie Kirk, then the reaction would have schooled him. Then Ta-Nehisi Coates certainly would have educated him. And he would have suddenly... And the thing is, when people find out that something is horrible that they didn't know was horrible because they didn't know anything about it, they react. And they say, oh shit, I didn't realize that. That's awful. That's fucked up. I didn't know that. And Ezra Klein hasn't been doing that. He has not been reacting like somebody who had no idea what he was talking about. He's been reacting like somebody who knew exactly who Charlie Kirk was, knew exactly what he stood for, knew exactly what he represented, and was cool with that.
I think that this is another fundamental problem, is that these pundits are not using the internet. And so they only sort of know who these characters are in this sort of, like, vague, like, deeply sanitized sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't buy that. Because, again, think about it. Like, say you write something about what a great humanitarian H.P. Lovecraft is, or something like that. Because you just heard something nice about him, and you just make you just make sort of an offhand remark because you'd heard something nice about him. And you know that his, like, stories are kind of popular and everything. You know, legendary or whatever. And then you find out that actually he was a fan of Hitler. you would feel really, really embarrassed and be, I think, in a hurry to correct the record lest anyone mistake you for sharing in that admiration of Hitler with H.P. Lovecraft. But, I mean, Ezra Klein isn't behaving like that. The other libs who were writing fucking columns whitewashing the legacy of Charlie Kirk are not behaving like that. None of them are like, oh shit, I had no idea. He said you should exterminate who? Like, they're rolling with it in a way that tells me they knew all along, and they were hoping that their readers didn't.
I mean, we'll get into so much, but like everything that you read is inaccurate.
The way that Charlie Kirk is portrayed in this piece, and also by a lot of people and pundits in the mainstream more broadly, is incomprehensible compared to the content he actually made.
Yeah, I mean, it was just openly hateful stuff. Every single bit of it. Like, you cannot... That's why they had to, at his memorial, Griftorama, they had to use AI to deep fake a Charlie Kirk who said things that were socially acceptable.
And what he would actually do when he went onto these college campuses.
Also, let's back up before that, Kat, and I totally agree with you. This is a man who, as a teenager, received a massive amount of funding from two far-right conservative billionaires.
Yes! Yeah, and they were the second people to talk at his fucking memorial Griftorama. The people who were like, who stuck their hand up his ass and told him what to say were right there. I mean, which I thought was an interesting choice, actually. Because these guys, there's this whole thing of like fake independent media. I mean, the 1630 Fund does it with Chorus, and the far right does tons of it. You know, they've got a whole just universe of fake independent influencers. And you're supposed to think they're grassroots, but, you know, they're just total astroturf. And part of the way they achieve the appearance of being, like, grassroots is that they don't just openly flaunt that they're getting ridiculous amounts of money from billionaires just for showing up at the door and saying racist things.
The idea that he, with just his like moxie, was able to influence a generation of college students is so deeply delusional.
I mean, it's on so many levels. You have to unpack so many things in that sentence, because there's the whole moxie thing, like fuck that. But there's also the idea that he actually had influence amongst college students. I mean, yes, his marketing program, like he was marketed as somebody who influenced Gen Z. But he did not have that influence, and his biggest fans are like 50 plus.
It was a astroturfed campaign by far-right reactionary billionaires.
Meet Canyon Kirk portrait. Oh God, yes. Oh, that is good. I mean, what gets me about it is I've seen various portraits done by admirers, and they all manage to look scarier than he did in the first place.
And they just found a willing millennial to go along with it, just the way that a lot of people today are finding willing Gen Zs to go along with their next political project, like censorship.
Damn,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like Olivia Juliana, as Hassan was saying. I mean, she is Gen Z, and like centrist right-wing Dems will pose with her and act like she's some sort of voice of Gen Z, but the reality is her following is mostly boomers.
I prize this podcast on nuance, and we went in swinging. I mean, this piece really quite deserves the lashings, but I really want to speak to in this episode people
lashings.
Who read.
Fun fact: in Britain and Ireland, lashings is a word you use to just mean a lot of. Like, you can ask for like lashings of hot fudge on your ice cream or something.
Honestly, Ezra Klein's piece, or any of the, like Kat mentioned, many of the pieces from both liberal and conservative pundits alike, I actually think it's one of the most common themes in
lying about his legacy.
Memorializing right now is like, well, you might not have agreed with him, but you gotta hand it to him. And I'm like, well,
it depends on what we're handing to him.
We're gonna really dissect all of the claims that Ezra Klein made in this article, but I really want to first mention like the elite political pundit class that Ezra Klein belongs to, and that a lot of the people who are deciding right now what Charlie Kirk's legacy is belong to. Because I agree with a lot of what Ezra Klein says about the genocide that Israel's committing, for example.
I mean, let's just note, I mean, he's only kind of recent. Like, a lot of liberals, he's come along to this very recently. It's like, if anyone in the New York pages of the New York Times had actually called this what it was when it first became clear, when Israel first announced their intentions, it would have saved a lot of lives. Because it wouldn't, it would not have withstood that. Shit would have had to happen. But the media, especially the New York Times, that of course is one of Ezra Klein's employers, just systematically lied about it. And Ezra Klein is also at Vox, isn't he? Yeah. Founder of Vox. And, okay. What does he have to say? Okay, his most recent thing here is 2020. So, yeah, not... I was hoping to find... well, we can look at what Vox had to say on Gaza, because, I mean, politically, they are very, ideologically, they are very much his baby. Americans have tuned out Gaza at the worst possible moment. First of all, they haven't really tuned out. Like, the people who were tuning it out were already tuning it out, but the thing is, they had, a lot of help with that, like Vox was helping them with that. Okay. A looming death spiral. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to hand Ezra Klein.
But he is also an extraordinarily wealthy white man who works for the New York Times. And what I find with so many of these, like, political intellectuals, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, for them, it's so often, it comes across as if politics is just like an intellectual exercise.
It is. Well, for them it is, though. From their position, it is like, that's all it is. It is, like, literally for them, it's just the West Wing. You're just, like, having... Yeah, you're just having these, like, theoretical debates. None of it really affects you. You're not talking about... you're talking about people's lives, but it's not your lives, so you can talk about it as an abstraction.
And it is that before it's something that, like, affects people who have way less privilege and wealth and access than the pundits creating these think pieces and who are currently determining what Charlie's legacy is. And it's just like, I read something like this, and I think about all of the people who have dealt in the last couple of years since Roe was overturned with an unplanned pregnancy, and they live in a state where they can't get abortion, and maybe they don't have money to go to a place where they can get an abortion. Or I think about the Black professors and the queer professors who have had their livelihoods threatened by Charlie Kirk's doxing movement.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention, I mean, yeah, he started a fucking blacklist of professors. And people got death threats off of that. People got doxed off of that. So, I mean, and I do not buy for a second that Ezra Klein had no idea who this guy was. I agree that it's the only way that Ezra Klein is anything other than a shithead, just a fash ghoul, is if he didn't know, but I don't buy it. It just is not plausible to me that he wouldn't.
We're going to get into. And I think about trans kids and the families who support them, who have, maybe they live in Florida or any of a number of places where their livelihoods are threatened as children.
I mean, not just their livelihoods, their fucking lives.
Deciding where to move, if they can move, how to deal with life if they can't move.
Within the first year of the beginning of this like legislative onslaught against trans people, which started in like actually before 2020, like when Biden was still, no, wait a second, sorry, I'm getting miscalculating. I mean, it started in the Biden administration. Biden actually made a change to the regulations on the ACA that allowed states to ban health care for trans people. But within like the first year of it, there were already over 260,000 internally displaced people. Like literally internal refugees as a result of that shit. But to somebody like Ezra Klein, it's just an abstraction. And of course he talks to like I was looking at his page because I wanted to see what other bullshit he's been on, so see if there's anything else we could look at. And oh, interesting idea. I think we might do that. Thank you for the link. But so he brought on Sarah McBride, who, it's worth noting, has also like joined the rest of the Senate in voting to honor fucking Charlie Kirk, but also has been very big on the idea that we need to just sort of accept that the neo-Nazis and fascist ghouls and bigots and everybody who think that trans people shouldn't exist, that they have legitimate concerns. Like, that we should include them in the dialogue and stuff. And it's like, fuck you. Fucking pick me.
What do they think about the way that Charlie Kirk supposedly practiced his politics?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it's really quite infuriating to me. And I think that oftentimes, like, again, someone like Ezra Klein means well. And I
don't think he does.
Is like,
I mean, I think, where's the seriously, where's the part? I would agree with them that you could say he was well-meaning if his response to people saying, wait a second, do you not realize who you were fucking whitewashing here? And pointing out just how fucking horrible he was, and Ta-Nehisi Coates' article just calling him out and pointing out what this guy actually stood for and everything. If he had said, holy shit, I'm sorry, I did not realize that, I really should have looked into him first. You could say he was well-meaning. That is not how he has behaved. In fact, he just brought another fucking white nationalist shitlord onto his podcast to do a thing about how we have to live with Nazis. Which is not how that works, Ezra. Because the thing about when you have to live with fascists is that some people literally can't because fascists want them dead.
About the spirit of debate and the spirit of free speech, but it's like, can we talk about the lives that were destroyed by this person? And the fact that, like, maybe that matters more than, like, the way that he, like, had conversations?
And the way that he had conversations was cherry-picking the most naive freshmen and then, like, deceptively editing the exchanges to make it look like he came out well.
Which thing really gets to me, because Charlie Kirk was not an ally of the free speech movement in any, like, at all.
Well, yeah, no, he was on team free speech for Nazis. Like, and a lot of libs, a lot of people like Ezra Klein. I mean, I don't know if he was, I haven't looked, but people like him certainly were, like, castigating anti-fascist community defenders, since 2016 for protesting and defending their communities against fascist shitlords who come in from out of town to terrorize the locals. And talking about, freedom of speech, and it's like, the fash were like saying, oh yeah, we're just into free speech and stuff and slurs. And they would take them at their word when they said that. And, of course, it turns out, like, some of us pointed this out, I think everybody in chat probably knew this at the time, that the thing about fascists talking about free speech is they only want free speech for fascists.
Really, one of the first things that Turning Point did was start doxing and trying to drive teachers out of their job. He was Libs of TikTok before Libs of TikTok.
Yeah.
So, please spare me. This is a man that shut down debates. Like, and he wasn't actually most of those college sort of debates, it was clickbait. It was setting up this sort of positioning himself in a certain way to get a certain soundbite so that he could make like triggered SJW clips on YouTube Shorts. Like, it wasn't any sort of earnest, meaningful debate.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to understand. There wasn't any. You just have to look at the titles. I just want to go back so we can look at these. So, Charlie Kirk hands out huge L's at University of California, San Diego. Rainbow-clad trans activists won't stop yelling nonsense at me. Like, is this a guy who's trying to understand the other side, i.e. the people who think that trans people should be allowed to exist?
Clips on YouTube Shorts. Like, it wasn't any sort of earnest, meaningful debate that recognized the, like, basic humanity. I mean, I think he just, fundamentally, he dehumanized so many groups.
Yes!
And I don't think you can even have a debate when somebody is dehumanizing you, because dehumanization is not something that's, like, a debatable thing.
You're affecting other people's rights. You're taking away people's choices. You are hurting people.
Yeah, and look at him. Look at it with fucking shit-eating grin there as somebody is talking about the actual harm he's doing. And the reason he's got a shit-eating grin there is because he likes that. He wants that.
Read the Constitution!
What rights am I taking away exactly?
You're trying to take away gender-affirming care for individuals. You are affecting abortion rights. You are hurting people.
Yeah, I mean, and see, this is why you should never debate these people. It is never in good faith. It is never honest. It is always going to be used, it is always going to be manipulated afterwards. They do not care about your position. They do not care that you're debating your humanity. You're debating your right to be, seen as a being with rights. And you're doing it against somebody who does not see you that way. And you're never going to win that. Yeah, the only thing for it is to just not play.
Got it. So what is a woman?
It really bothers me.
See, like, he just immediately moves on to the next bullshit talking point.
The way that Charlie Kirk keeps being characterized as if this is a fact, that he was a debater, that he persuaded people.
Like, the one time he actually had a, like, genuine sort of debate over at Cambridge University in Britain, he got his ass handed to him. Because it was not this rigged playing field that he has where he can just, creatively edit shit.
That he relied on, like, the rhetoric of debate on college campuses to convince young students, because that's actually not what he was doing at all.
Yeah.
And these words have meanings. Like, a debate has a specific meaning, and even if you go and watch, which, again, I do not think these pundits are going to youtube.com and sitting down and watching the viral Charlie Kirk YouTube videos.
See, and again, I feel like this gives them too much credit. I mean, if you did, but the wild thing is that what they're showing here to me, in their effort to try to make these people even look elementarily decent, these pundits who have done this, these libs who've done this, like, is they're actually accusing them of either just absolute journalistic malpractice or utter incompetence. Because they're literally saying the only way you could say, and I agree with this, the only way you could honestly say the things that these people have been saying about this guy is if you simply knew nothing about it. But then you wouldn't be being honest, because the fact that you're saying it in print, in major media outlets, falsely implies that you know something about the subject. So, like, literally, the attempt to sort of find a way where what they're doing could could do what they're doing without being horrible people makes them actually still like really shitty people and even shittier journalists.
Because it's very clearly not a debate. And if you go and even watch the most watched video on his YouTube channel, the young woman on campus who he's speaking to is like, that is her argument. Is that like what he's doing is ridiculous and it's not actually a debate at all.
Do you feel proud of your...
Did Hader try to flash Charlie Kirk to get him banned on YouTube? I mean, if they did, then I mean, just absolutely, I'm there for the hustle there. I assume that he, I mean, you know, I don't know about guests. I would assume he knows something about them, and I would assume he knows at least something about the things that he writes about and the people he writes about. Like, the idea that these people are all writing about Charlie Kirk without doing the most elementary due diligence just to see, like, the top YouTube results from his fucking YouTube channel or whatever. I mean, that is a bigger indictment, actually, because then they just suck.
For debating college kids who are unprepared to speak in front of an audience like yourself.
Yeah, I mean, she's quite right. She's quite right. That is exactly what she's doing. Because all he is doing is spewing talking points. It's the same fucking talking points, and you know, he just does this gish gallop. If somebody scores a hit on one thing, he just jumps over and just says something else and starts talking about something else. He doesn't say, "Oh, wait a second, you're giving me something to think about." He immediately moves on, like he did with that young woman just now, who was talking about the harm he was doing. And he said, "Well, what rights am I trying to take away?" And she said, and then he said, "Well, then he's like, okay, no, there's no win to be had here because you might actually enter into a discussion that he would look shitty in, even, well, shittier." And yeah, so he just said, "Okay, what's a woman?" And it's like, shut the fuck up.
Forget the personal attacks or the stylistic attacks.
What is a stylistic attack?
Focus on substance. The more we debate that, the stronger we're going to be as a country.
Yeah, see, shut up. Like, what substance?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I don't think you're focusing on substance, though. That's the issue.
He isn't focusing on substance. He has no substance. He has a billionaire's hand up his ass.
Hold on. Look, he intentionally tried to provoke substance out of you.
Well, what she's doing actually does have substance. She's pointing out the entire scam that he's pulling here.
And you said, well, I'm worried about some laws Congress should pass. I have to ask, what laws are you talking about? Can you be specific?
Oh, I see.
I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, but this is what you do. This is what you do. You take people and you put them under the spotlight, and you.
Well, hold on. I didn't ask you to come up here. You.
Like, yes, you did. The entire thing that he's doing is based on, you know, it's like inviting people to come up. Though none of what he does would work if anyone wasn't willing to come up, almost certainly unprepared. And try to get a word in edgewise over his fucking talking points so that he can then clip them out of context.
Voluntarily came to the front of the line. You didn't have to do that.
You're purposely antagonizing people on campus, asking
Yeah.
people to come up by spreading your...
Like, I mean, and here's the thing about, like, Ezra Klein's line about, oh, he was so persuasive, he broke the left's hold on the hearts and minds of college campuses, which is already just such a bullshit talking point. Like, far right loves to pretend that like the universities are just these hotbeds of communism. I mean, that is a popular thing to do going back like a century. Oh, you're quite right. Maybe I'll move over to that. But we're kind of short on time at this point, so maybe that will come next. I do have it in my list. But like the fact that his videos are full of people telling him how full of shit he is on campus, that in itself ought to counsel against believing that he was actually persuading anyone on campus.
Weird agenda.
How? What agenda is that? I'm confused, though.
No, you aren't. Shut the fuck up.
And it is just a way to like create viral content,
Yeah.
and it is so alarming to me.
And not only that, it isn't even an original way. Literally every fucking fash grifter does this. Some of them better than others. I mean, Caitlin Bennett is really bad at it. She's bad at the editing. She's bad at the asking. I didn't see a short video. I saw like a 2-hour one, but if you see a short video that he did, we could certainly switch over to do a short one. I was looking through to see, and it was like, there was like a 2-hour thing.
That we've allowed the meaning of debate, and by we, I mean like these institutions that have the power to reflect how things are seen in the world, have capitulated to this definition of debate. And
yeah, I mean, and that goes back a while. I mean, if you're old enough to remember, you may be aware that it used to be the League of Women Voters, which was one of those sort of very venerable sort of liberal good government NGO groups. They used to run the debates. They used to be the ones who moderated like debates between presidential candidates. Thank you, Riveroon. Lovely. And when Clinton and Bush had their, I mean, not Clinton and Bush, but no, wait, yeah, Clinton and Bush had their first debate, the League of Women Voters denounced it as a fraud because the candidates had insisted that they basically get to manipulate the whole thing and just do a scripted event and call it a debate. And then you had 2000, the election there, Ralph Nader, a Green Party candidate at the time. He, you know, he wasn't even allowed, he got a ticket to be in the audience at the debate, and he was kicked out by security. Like, they literally would not allow an actual presidential candidate to even being in the audience at a debate because he was from an opposition party. Okay, here we go. Fucking Pastor Caleb. Look, what the fuck's he wearing there? And with his power ring, too, the cult ring, is opposing political violence.
Really need to do is to oppose the danger of political violence.
I love how, I mean, so he's just accepting this idea that we haven't had political violence up until now.
You know,
I mean, I'm not shocked, but
because
just
there's
noting
one
it.
thing that will prevent a real mass movement, bringing the country together, it'll be violence and killing.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's right, because we're remembering the time he had, like, a really shitty take on the D. Brian Thompsoning of United Healthcare.
The glorification of the murder of Brian Thompson.
Well, I think, I don't know, glorification is the word. It was just that most people were happy because fuck that guy. Because the guy had huge amounts of blood on his hand. Most people understood that.
And the celebration of the alleged crime of Luigi Mangione is extremely dangerous.
I will say, the fact that he said alleged, actually is better than, like, 90% of the discourse on the subject that I've seen. Because so many people just run off with the idea that, you know, Luigi did it. Luigi is maintaining his innocence, and it's dodgy and the evidence against him is dodgy as fuck. Like, we should not be just accepting that. But he said alleged. That's like, wow, I mean, a rare W.
In Italy, in the 1970s and 80s, they were getting ready to leave NATO. And then they fomented the years of lead. And we know with Operation Gladio, the CIA was funding fascist groups and funding the Red Brigades, and they were kidnapping.
Well, they were funding the fascist groups.
Kidnappings and killing, and it led to the population being weary and demoralized, and that's why Italy is still in NATO. And a similar thing happened in Jamaica in the 1980s. And if you...
Well, I mean, what happened in Jamaica in the 1980s was that the U.S. did a coup to overthrow Michael Manley.
Look at it, creating a situation where people are afraid to get politically active because they might get shot. creating a situation.
Well, okay, so his idea here is that the only reason anyone would have that fear is because of what happened to fucking Charlie Kirk?
Where they reinforce this false polarization of woke versus MAGA, red state.
I mean, it's the false polarization of people who are fucking white supremacists and actually engage in a whole lot of political violence. In fact, most political violence in the U.S., virtually all of it. Like, I mean, but he won't say that.
State, religious versus secular. That's not the polarization we need. The polarization we need is the overwhelming majority in this country that oppose the wars, that want economic growth, and want to protect our citizens.
Do you think that most people really want economic growth, though, or do you think that they would say in polls that economic growth is good because they've only ever heard it being said to be good? I mean, it's like balanced budget, which they picked as a term for it, specifically because it has a positive feel. And for a while, when that was all over the place, because they were talking about, you know, the balanced budget amendment and all that sort of shit, fairly long time ago now, you know, they did polls, and they asked, you know, do you think the U.S. should have a balanced federal budget? And people said, yeah. But then they went on to say, okay, but here's what that means. Like, so do you feel like if it meant that we'd be having cuts to education and healthcare and, you know, environmental protection and all that stuff, do you still feel that there should be a balanced budget? And people said, fuck no, mostly. Like, you literally will never hear anyone do a critique of what growth is. And, of course, we've never seen any evidence that Caleb knows what it is.
The polarization is that majority in all states, from all backgrounds, coming together and opposing the billionaire monopolies in their drive for World War III. That's the polarization we need.
I mean, the guy that you've been backing and whitewashing is a literal billionaire, though. And wait a second, I mean, he had a whole video a while back. I looked at it on stream, where he was talking about how it's anti-Marxist to think billionaires shouldn't exist. And his argument was that everyone should have the living standard of billionaires. Like, literally, that is impossible.
And political violence is one way to make sure that it doesn't happen.
I mean, the whole framing here is the idea that it's only political violence if it comes from below, as well.
And I believe that the celebration and glorification of political violence we're seeing all across social media is not accidental. This is an operation to...
Well, are you talking about, like, for example, when Charlie Kirk, for example, was celebrating Nancy Pelosi's husband getting the shit knocked out of him? For example.
Demoralize, to make the population weary, and to get us to just kind of go along and accept.
I mean, it's weird to say that this is an operation. I would believe that if the media were actually encouraging us to celebrate this, but it's not. In fact, I mean, look at what happened when they tried to scaremonger over the death of Brian Thompson, but they abandoned it really quickly, because every time they talk about it, the comments would be full of people saying, yeah, fuck that guy, laughing their asses off because, saying it served him right. There is very clearly not a desire. There is a desire to use this to scaremonger. But there is clearly not, an op trying to get people... it didn't take an op to get people to hate Brian Thompson. They just had to hear that he was an insurance company executive. Even most is understating the case. Even the FBI's own figures say that if you leave out the fake-ass thwarted terrorist attacks where they will entrap some often mentally unwell Muslim with some kind of catfishing operation and coerce them into carrying out a plot that was never going to happen. If you take that out, then 100% of it is from the far right. But it is time, on that cheery thought, to wrap up for this week. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Oh, well, we have that animation, that's short, so let's look at that. It's 2 minutes. We'll do that before we go. And I mean, River Roan went to all that trouble.
Those of you that say, well, it really doesn't impact me, I don't care if Trump goes to prison. First of all, you absolutely should care.
Well, I mean, he just looks, it looks even more NPC than he did.
Because if we lose, they're going to come after the churches, they're going to come after the organizations, they're going to come after the people, they're going to come after the
Is it me or is his face getting smaller?
Media accounts, they're going to come after the bank accounts, they're going to come after every single person that played any form and role into trying to defend President Trump. Social media banning, following in the streets, targeting in every form and fashion. If we lose, if the president loses, they will come for us all. They will...
Yeah, I mean, again, like, this is his actual voice. He actually...
For your children, they will come for your schools, they will come in every fashion.
I mean, I know the image is an animation, but I feel like...
They won't stop. They are going to do whatever it takes to try to personally and intergenerationally destroy Donald Trump. That's how much they...
Sorry. Intergenerationally destroy Donald Trump.
They hate him. They hate him not because of his tweets, not because of his style. They hate him because all of their schemes have been put in jeopardy. They're going to come with blood.
He's got a quest for us.
Thirsty revenge. President Trump always says, quote,
if you love birds, you'd never want to walk under a windmill because it's a very sad, sad sight.
If we are intrinsically tied to the president, he's with us, he's for us. I've called him the bodyguard of Western civilization.
Okay, this is wild.
And boy, is he taking the body blows for us. But if they come for him, they're coming for us, and they're also coming for me. This is where it's headed. If Donald Trump loses...
I will say, not only is nobody coming for him, but nobody has ever come in his presence.
You can expect every level of...
Yeah, I mean, like, even the sort of weird use of intergenerationally made me think it was definitely an authentic quote, and I just can't help thinking, it's like, this is the guy we're supposed to be thinking was, like, yeah, the antithesis of political violence, and here he is, like, just doing it, just totally riling these motherfuckers up.
Power to try to obliterate us for good.
God, look at his face.
Very real thing. If we lose in November, it's going to be better. That if they get power back, they're going to lock him up, and they're going to continue until they have absolute pathological power over our nation. Please email us your thoughts, as always, freedom@charliekirk.com. freedom@charliekirk.com. Make sure you check out my interview with Ken Owens.
Okay. Thank you for that video. Oh, River Roan. That was great. Okay. It is time for me to wrap up, and see you next week. Where